What is going on, Nuggets Nation, NBA fans? I am Tom Leuthner. Welcome back into Nuggets today. The first thing I want to start off with is something that I'm just going to side note. Tom Balchetis is officially out of the Nuggets GM conversation. The only in-house GM that's left is Ben Tenzer. So just get that out of the way. I think we all know that at this point. But I do want to go back and talk about something real quick. That one thing I want to talk about is in regards to last episode. So I look back and I don't even realize, sometimes I get sidetracked here, or sometimes I don't even think about it, but I don't realize how I missed saying the entire trade for what I thought the Nuggets should do, and that was the Jakob Poeltl and Bruce Brown trade. So it was a three-team trade. I actually made out a whole trade. I went on fanspo.com. I made sure that contracts worked for everybody. It was a three-teamer between the Pels, Raptors, and the Nuggets, and it was in regards to last episode and the episode prior because I did cover the Trey Murphy. Like I said, sometimes I just get caught up in the moment and swipe over some of my notes and don't see what I wrote down, and I'm skipping some things. But like I said, I built a three-team trade that I think would work, and I know what everybody's going to say to start off with, so I'm going to get to it. So the trade that I had built would be a three-teamer, like I said, between Denver, New Orleans, Toronto, and it would work out with contracts and potentially picks, where Denver would receive Jakob Poeltl, Bruce Brown, if he's on a 3-year extension, around $5 million per year, a Raptors 28 first, a Raptors 29 second, a 2030 Pelicans second round pick, or insert whatever picks you want right there. The Pelicans would receive Michael Porter Jr. and RJ Barrett, and the Raptors would receive Trey Murphy, Olynyk, Zeke Naji, Peyton Watson. So I know that Denver's giving up Watson and MPJ there. But what that does is it clears salary cap. The only way that trade works is if Peyton Watson is in that trade as well. But it leaves salary cap. And not only can you sign a guy like Taurean Prince right now on a mid-level exception with that kind of salary cap, but you can also go out and try to target a guy like Gary Trent Jr. You could also target a guy like Karis LeVert. So if you're able to do a trade like that, You look at the Nuggets starting five, and it's still Jamal Murray there. You still have Christian Brown there, but now you can move Brown down to the three potentially. You have Aaron Gordon there. You have Jokic there. You have Jakob Poeltl there. And like I covered last episode, if you want to play Jokic at the four, you can now do that with Jakob Poeltl starting at center. We saw that, I've covered that last episode. He gets capable starter minutes. I think that, again, the Nuggets probably get the worst package in that deal. But what the Nuggets also get are future draft picks, and they get to dump salary. So that's what Denver needs to do, and that's something that we've covered. MPJ is great when he's healthy. He was great in the finals run. He was not good in the finals, and he struggled this past playoffs. But he was injured. He's also injury prone. So if you're able to dump that, get 1 first, 3 seconds, 2 guys who you want to bring, one guy you want to bring back and one guy you would love to bring in, then why not go ahead and do that? You're able to dump the salary. The Raptors get a package that they would probably love: Trey Murphy, Olynyk, Naji, Watson, and they have Ingram still. They have IQ still. And like I said, Pels get Porter Jr. and RJ, and they still have a guy like Zion. So I think you have the chemistry would work there with RJ and Zion if Zion ends up playing. Obviously, there's a lot of talks in the air. And again, like I said, Denver finally gets some future draft picks, and they get to dump MPJ's salary. Talking about people, and obviously I brought up Tommy Balchetis is actually officially out of the conversation, and Denver still, to this point, does not have a GM, but there's some people I want to look at, obviously, and that first person being Chris Paul. And I know that Chris Paul may be getting over a vet minimum at this point, which is crazy to say, but if you look at what he did statistically last year, it really does make sense. You look at it, he played all 82 games last year. In those 82 games, he averaged 28 minutes per game. He averaged 8.8 points, 3.6 rebounds, and 7.4 assists. Shot 43% from the field, but 38% from three, which is above league average. So I saw reports that Chris Paul was a sleeper for the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, if I'm Denver, regardless of who the GM is, if you are still searching for a backup point guard, if Russ is gone, then go ahead and snag Chris Paul before any other team can get him. Go ahead, bring in Bruce Brown, bring in Chris Paul, bring in Taurean Prince, and bring in a backup center. You can do that on vet minimums and your one mid-level exception. So go ahead and do that. Again, I don't know if Bruce would take the vet minimum to come to Denver, but if you're able to get Bruce and Chris Paul and even just a backup big, then your bench is Strother, Watson, Deron Holmes when he comes back, Chris Paul and Bruce Brown. I'm fine with that as a backup pair. And again, who knows what happens at the trade deadline next year, or who knows what happens the rest of this offseason. You can go out, you could target just about anybody. And again, if you're able to go grab those players, go ahead and do so. Like I said, Russ may not be coming back, so we have another point guard here that I want to cover. And that is somebody who's an unrestricted free agent coming off an injury. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Malcolm Brogden being targeted by a lot of playoff teams. And I know that there's probably a lot of people who aren't that high on him, strictly because, again, he's injury prone. Only played in 24 games this past year. But in those 24 games, played 23 and a half minutes. He averaged 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 43% from the field, shot 28% from three. Now, I know the three-point shooting is terrible, but you're also not looking. He's a career 40% three-point shooter, by the way. But the numbers are not all that, right? But he is also coming off an injury. He's getting older. So now all he can do really is take a vet minimum unless there's a team who's stupid enough to go out and give a guy who played 24 games anything above that, which I don't think happens. So I think that he is somebody that Denver should legitimately go after if they're not able to bring in a guy like Chris Paul, if they're not able, and I think there's a lot more options. And you know what? Next episode, I already have my script out. I think there are a lot more options at point guard that you should look to target before Malcolm Brogdon. But I think that if you need a cheap backup point guard and hope that they play, then go ahead and get Brogdon. Go ahead and get Brogdon and then hope that Trey Alexander or Jalen Pickett can develop to be the third point guard in case he gets hurt or in case Murray goes down. I think it's a good signing. I think it works out. Now, this next segment here is something I want to start doing more. And I want to get you guys involved in my podcast. And what I want to do is look through and I've been doing it. I've been looking through the comments, seeing some things I want to point out. But I'm gonna give you guys a whole topic here, and that is that you guys have spoken, so I'm gonna cover it. Now, excuse me if I get this name wrong, but commenter, and I'm assuming fan, I would hope so, Bojan Polic, commented asking about Al Horford. Now, I think Horford is amazing. He's set to become a free agent this upcoming offseason. And I love the idea of Horford as a backup. Averaged 9, 6, and 2 this year. The only thing that I get a little nervous about is the age that he's coming up on and the ability for him to be what he was, which obviously we saw in the Celtics series. He cannot take on a massive role. He would need to be a backup, and that's it. You need to bring him up. I think he can be a legit, or you have to bring him off the bench, rather. In the Knicks series, he played well, but there was nothing special. There was no Al Horford 30-point games that we'll see here and there. I know I'm exaggerating there, obviously. It's more like 20, 25-point games, even 15-point games. But like I said, he's averaging 9 points. I think he can get a legitimate 12 to 13 minutes off the bench for Denver next year. And I wouldn't be mad with Denver entertaining the thought or belief of bringing Al Horford in. But at the same time, there's also the possibility of Al Horford retiring next year. So he hasn't announced anything. Denver also hasn't announced anything, and that being a GM yet. And I know there's obviously comments talking about GMs, but like I said, I want to get this topic rolling so that you guys get more involved so I can read your comments, respond to you guys, and I already have a comment from the last episode picked out for next episode as well. So make sure you guys drop those comments, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys tomorrow.